Okay, this video is about an extremely important cycle analysis tool called the Hilbert sine wave that's been developed by John Ehlers. Now I've kind of changed the code somewhat and called this indicator the better sine wave indicator. What's unique about the sine wave indicator is that it measures both cyclical and trending activity in the market. You can see here that we've got nice kind of sine waves being formed that shows the cyclical activity that's happening in the price bars. However, when the market turns into a trending mode, we don't get crossovers in the cycle, the sine wave indicator, as the market enters a trend zone like this, and then as cyclical activity returns to the market here, we've got the crossovers happening in the sine wave. So what's unique about this indicator is that it's a cycle analysis tool that measures both cyclical activity and trending activity in a market. Now I've improved on the code and added a what I call a support resistance tool, which plots on the price bars where these cycle turns are occurring. Some clever little code that kind of picks those tops and bottoms a little bit more accurately than the straight kind of cycle turns in the indicator. And then when we enter a trend mode here, we get kind of a breakout dot on white for downside break and red for an upside break, which shows where we've entered a trending mode, and then we re-enter the cyclical activity here. Now sometimes those white dots and red dots that show trending activity are just overshoots of price, and so we've got a cyclical low happening here and the price just happens to overshoot and then turns the other way. So we get a series of three types of signals, either the pure cycle signals here, or overshoots on the cycle shown by the white dots and then reverses the other way, or pure trending moves as we've seen here where the price kind of keeps on going in the direction of the trend. In addition to those signals on the price bars, I've actually added some code that plots a little text message here that indicates, in this case, the end of a pure trend move. So we have here, market goes into trend move here, have a pullback, and what I call a completion move, where this is a pure trend move, where the pullback is in the same direction as the trend, but doesn't breach this support level, and we get a kind of a pure move here. What you often find, or what I often find, is that these completion moves signal the end of trends, and when we see those in a couple of multiple time frames happening at the same time, they're pretty good signals to take a reversal signal. Okay, having introduced the Hilbert sine wave indicators on a tick bar chart, I just wanted to show you how the indicators work on all markets and all time frames. So I've just pulled up a chart here. This is a 135-minute chart of the E-mini, and with 135 minutes you get 3 bars per trading day, and it's my preferred time frame for swing trading the E-mini. You can see we still get kind of cyclical crosses. Here we kind of miss a cycle a little bit, we move back into cyclical activity, trend mode happening here, and so on. With the price bars we get an exhaustion signal kind of to the downside, a pullback, and we get a little bit of overshoot here, but the end of a trend move happening here. The market reverses, goes the other way, a little bit of an overshoot on the downside, pullback, nicely pick a top there about 1500, and then the market enters a long decline here, which is signaled by the trend signal there. We get a pullback, and we've now hit a support region at about 1330 on the E-mini. So you can see it does work on different time frames and is still pulling out that cyclical and trending activity out of the price bars. Just wanted to go back and look at the E-mini 135-minute chart going back. This is mid-2006 to the end of 2006, and this chart is quite interesting to note how we had a very long trend that developed in the E-mini and all the indices over that time period. But using the Hilbert sine wave, you could see that each of these pullbacks in trend, these low points here, were just consistently picked off by the Hilbert sine wave. The red support lines all the way up, and then we finally had a break in the trend at the end, so that was February of '07, and then we had a pullback in trend and a completion move here with the end text there, and then the market kind of reversed and went the other way. Okay, so we had a couple of example charts using the E-mini for both day trading and swing trading. I just wanted to show some longer term charts of different stocks as well. This is a daily chart of Google, and just showing what's been happening at the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. And you can see how the Hilbert sine wave, again with these support resistance levels, works quite nicely on stock data as well. We had a breakout into trend, a pullback and moving back into cyclical activity, and then towards the beginning of October we had a breakout again in trend around the 525 level, and that peaked over here. We had a pullback and then a final, what I'd say, completion of trend move here at just over $700 was a nice exit point, back into some cyclical activity, down to a preliminary support level that eventually got broken, and then we've kind of continued down in this downtrend. Similarly, just picking another stock, let's look at RIM, for example, on daily data as well. Similar pattern. We had mid last year breakout into trend. We had a little bit of a pullback here, and it kind of overshot the pullback and then kind of reversed and went the other way. Break into trend again, pullback in trend, and then a final completion move here at 120. Cyclical activity again. We've kind of broken below that last support area, and you can see that this also works quite nicely on weekly charts. I actually think that combining daily and weekly charts on stock data is a very powerful way to use this methodology. So we kind of broke above this resistance level at 30 and kept above that. That was back at the end of 2006, and the move's been a strong trend move since then. And it's interesting that on the RIM data we've just kind of pulled back into a support area around $80, and what we should see is the market should continue higher than that, hopefully. Okay, just wanted to look at some FX data here. We've got the euro versus the US dollar on a 15-minute intraday chart. You can see the cyclical activity happening here. We've got a kind of a slight pullback there, and then a final top being made above 146, and the cycle indicator picks that off quite nicely. Have preliminary support level here plotted, but that eventually kind of gives way to quite a strong down trend move that was started with that signal there. We kind of have the end of that trend move with the text being printed on there. We're into some cyclical activity, and again these highs and lows being really nicely delineated by the Hilbert sine wave. Okay, I want to go back to the E-mini and look at a 699 tick bar chart just to show some kind of day trading kind of tips and tricks, if you like, here. And just wanted to show this move here where we had a strong kind of down move, and this is a kind of a correctional move that it's quite a lot of cyclical activity happening there with these highs and lows being picked off quite nicely by the sine wave indicator, and then we kind of break into a trend move going down. Just trying to suggest a way of being able to enter that market at 1340, and what I would be doing throughout that, I'd be looking at a higher time frame. And so for me the next highest time frame would be 3 times that 699 tick chart, which ends up being a 2097 tick chart. And that move up to 1342 coincided with a cyclical top happening in this higher time frame. So you can see the beginning of that correction move after the strong downtrend move. The low was picked off nicely by a cyclical low support area there. We moved into a trend move, and there was that top being picked out in a multiple time frame kind of aspect from at 1342. And then on top of that I'd also be looking at volume, so I'd use my better volume indicator here, and you can see how at that top happening up here we had a bar that spiked, but it's colored green, which is on my better volume indicator shows that there's high churn happening on that bar right there. So we've got a cyclical top coinciding in 2 different time frames, the lower and the higher time frame. It's a correction, kind of an ABC type correction against the trend, and we've got a churn in volume happening here, which is suggesting that we're going to see the market roll over and go the other way. So that's how I would be using the Hilbert sine wave indicators, with volume as confirmation and multiple time frames.